Welcome to Paul's Passive House. It may not be immediately obvious to you, but I spend a fair amount of time just sitting and thinking. Just sort of staring at whatever it is I'm trying to resolve or solve and figuring out in my mind, how the fuck am I going to do this? And what I'm looking at right now is the air barrier. How am I going to connect it to all of those pieces of wood that are in the roof? There's all the joists and the connections, and I have to figure out, okay, is the tape going to work? Do I need caulk? Is there a different kind of sealer I should use? And then eventually I stop scratching my ass, or my head, or both, and get to work. Okay, so the first time I cut this stuff, I cut it to length. So I cut a full 16 or 18 foot piece. And then, because it's 8 feet 4 inches, I folded it and cut it so that it would fit from top to bottom, or it would fit from the edge to edge. But there are some inconsistencies as it goes from here and over to there. So I'm gonna change up the way I cut this because I want it to be exact, or more exacting. So instead of cutting it the way I did, I'm gonna cut it a new way. So instead of making one long piece and then cutting it in half, I'm actually going to be cutting it to the width that I want it and then just unfurling it. It's going to take longer. There's going to be more pieces to connect, but each individual piece will fit better because it'll be easier to maneuver up in the attic space. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, or it might seem like it doesn't work at first, but as I was going through this, I found this to be much easier to place these pieces than the original piece that I cut, which was huge. All right, let's get the camera, give you guys a look. So we've got the pieces of vinyl, the double-sided tape, the double-sided tape, the double-sided tape, and then we can tape even more, another layer. This gives us enough to do 2, and I can really focus on this. So let's see how that goes. Remember, this is the prototype. So I don't know if this is gonna work. Tell you one thing, it sucks doing this work looking up all the time. Speaking of sucks, doing this work with the ceiling dropped, no matter how much it sucks, is almost infinitely easier than doing this while crawling around in a confined attic. Especially for me, I'm 6'5", which makes every confined space nearly miserable. But by cutting these pieces into smaller, more manageable pieces, if they do get wonky over the course of the entirety of the roof, they don't get as wonky. They're easier to adjust, they're easier to fit, and they're easier to trim. When I had one piece that was 18 feet long, it was just too much plastic, and it took too long to place properly. All right. I gotta find this stuff in like a 9,000 foot roll. So, as you can see, it's working pretty good. We've got 1 layer, 2 layers, right, to connect this. We don't have and it's going around the corners really well. It's connecting to the wood really well. It's not perfect, but it's working pretty well. We'll see in the morning and after it's had some time to see if it starts to pull away from the wood. I don't think it will, but it might. So that's our prototype, but we're just gonna keep doing that all the way down. It's gonna be a lot of work, it's gonna be a headache, but I think it'll be okay. I think we're gonna get there. So that's exciting. Now I've got my head cam on and I've made my way down the roof, and now I'm to this space here right above where the bathroom door is. And you're gonna watch me do some pretty particular stuff. These are some of the intricate details that I wanted to share with you. I didn't want to just sort of half-ass show you what I'm doing. I wanted to actually get into the particular. So as you can see, I had to wash that cross member off. It had old insulation on it and dust, so I had to wipe it off. That way the tape will stick permanently. And here we're getting into some of the real close cut details. There's a lot of knife work. There's a lot of overlapping and tape work. As I made my way across this span, I had to cut and trim these pieces specifically to fit into these spaces. Now, not every cross member was exactly the same spacing, not everything lined up perfectly, so as you can imagine, I had to do quite a lot of custom work here. Plus, I'm one of these people that's just constantly worried that what I'm about to do isn't gonna work. And so I sit and think and try to figure out exactly how it's gonna work before I start making all these cuts. One of the nice things about this CertainTeed smart membrane product is that it's actually pretty rigid. It was really easy to work with. It was easy to cut, it was easy to tape, it was easy to hold steady. It didn't flop around too much. If you could hear the audio right now, you'd hear how loud this stuff is. It's really loud when you move it around. It makes a lot of noise. And pushing it into place, I actually cut that audio because I didn't want to subject you to it. But like I said, it's quite rigid. It's very strong and sturdy. You can see there I'm cutting little flaps that are gonna be folded against the wood and then securing those flaps with tape, both single and double-sided tape. I had to pay special attention to the cuts that I made where I had to split the plastic and then tape around it. Now you may be thinking that that connection that I just made with that tape doesn't look very strong, but what you didn't see, or what you might not see, is that I'm gonna be able to go back after this is secured more securely to that wood and push down on it really hard to make sure that it's airtight. At this point in the process, I've stopped using double-sided tape because I was finding that it was just redundant, especially for those long spans. Now, there are some spots where I use it and others where I don't. I decided not to use it here because, like I said, it was just too much. It didn't need it. This white tape that I'm using is incredibly durable. It's a Gorilla Tape product and it's super, super durable. So I was finding that it was strong enough on its own. Here you see me making the slits that I then am able to fold over these flaps that span the gaps between the CertainTeed smart membrane that's installed below this gap and the CertainTeed membrane that's installed above this gap. By the way, also, if you're working with double-sided tape, and one of the reasons I stopped using it as much is that unless you have some decent fingernails, and even if you do, it's really hard to get it to delaminate. And so it was starting to get really frustrating. But you can see I just cut that flap, I'm cleaning everything off, and now I'm spanning that gap. I'm using this flap to connect to that double-sided tape that was connected to the vinyl L brackets that I installed, and I'm spanning this gap, making sure to clean any dust or debris from the membrane as I go, and making sure to really focus on the details of this installation. One of the super forgiving things about working with this type of product, as opposed to when I was installing 3.5 inches of polyiso rigid foam in the other attic that you saw me working on earlier in an earlier video, one of the advantages of this is just how simple the work is. It's really easy. I don't have to use a drill. I don't have to use special washers to hold it in place. It's just delicate work. It's just fingertip work. You have to be pretty dexterous to do this. And so here I am using tape, cutting tape, and filling in spaces and securing these sheets. And it's simple work, more simple than the work you saw me doing in the attic previously, but it's still a lot of detail work. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience and attention to detail. You have to be willing to go over this and over this and over this multiple times, because this product is clear, so it's not the easiest to see what you've already done. And then any gaps, any holes, you have to either pressure test, which is what I did, and you actually won't see me doing that, but I pressure tested this, or you have to just keep looking for holes and then sealing them up with the tape. You could see me taking so much time to really secure this membrane to this piece. I want to make sure that it's as tight as this other piece over here. And then after it is, I can go through and re-seal some of these weaker pieces. I ran a couple of tests before I actually did all this work and made sure that this tape held, and boy did it. Wood is not the easiest thing to attach to, but this tape did a great job. And I think when you juxtapose using all this tape and this membrane to the 3.5 inches of polyiso sheets that I installed in the other attic, and then sealed those joints with spray foam and mesh tape, this is much simpler, much easier, and I dare say much more effective. Spray foam is not the best air barrier in any form, and the 3.5 inches of polyiso that I was using, the rigid foam, is a good air barrier, but it's not great. It's not as good as this smart membrane. This smart membrane is top of the line stuff, and it was much cheaper, although it does not provide the R value that the polyiso does, so it does have a drawback. Now you can see here, I've cut all these different individual flaps in the plastic in order to have something to attach to. And I've also used a tape that's incredibly stretchy. You could stretch this tape into any direction, into any shape, and that proved to be very useful in this application. It bends around corners, it sticks to itself, it sticks to wood. It was sticking all over me. It kept sticking to my fingers. It was starting to piss me off. But, you know, in hindsight, that's actually a good thing. Yeah, see there, I'm sealing these pieces I'm gonna run another piece of tape along that length. That's not the only piece of tape that's gonna go on there, but the plastic was a little wonky here, and so I had to fold it and then reseal it. Again, learning as I go. Before I said it was a prototype, this is definitely prototypical for me. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I'm just trying to do my best. Now this is the kind of detail work that I had to do all through this space. 4 different individual sections, all that had to be connected to each other in one continuous piece of smart vapor barrier. All right, we are nearly finished with the air barrier. So much to see. So obviously, the air barrier here, all the tape. That's the heat recovery ventilator. Air in, air out. We've filled this whole cavity with insulation, although I'm still annoyed that I don't have as much on top. I think I'm gonna have problems there. We'll see. I might need to cut into this again, which I'm fucking annoyed by, but to cover that space, I don't know. I got a little ahead of myself, but we'll see. I think it'll be all right. All this air barrier, all this detail work, all these little dots and everything. This detail work is crazy. Now you can see where this connects, so that's just insulation, connects to the barrier, got the membrane, goes all the way to the other side, and I still have to connect it over there, but you get to see all of this. Now, we skipped ahead a little bit. This is a few months later, I think, or maybe a month later. And what I'm doing here is I'm using like a liquid nails product, something like liquid nails. It might actually be liquid nails. And I'm tacking down that 1/2-inch polyiso foil-faced insulation. And when I say tacking, I'm just adding little dots of liquid nails to hold it in place. You see, what was happening was I had a full tube of zip liquid flashing, but I couldn't get it to sit still well enough to actually secure anything. So I decided to go through with liquid nails and essentially just sort of weld it in place. The little dots here and there, little beads here and there to hold this in place. And once it gets secured, then I'll be able to come back with the zip liquid flashing and it'll stop moving. It'll stop moving away from the application process. And then also too, I can fill in some of these bigger gaps with expanding foam or spray foam. And you'll see in a moment, one of the bigger gaps that I had to tackle with tape and foam and everything else I could find. Now you're watching here a close-up again. I'm just taking the liquid nails and adding beads here and there. Not a whole bead, not the whole piece. I want to use the zip system liquid flashing, but I'm just tacking this in place so it stops moving around, makes it easier to work with, keeps it sturdy and steady. It's really hard to describe to you in these little snippets of video and time just how much detail work this was. What I just showed you is months worth of work. Every night, 4 hours a night or something like that. It was just painstaking. If you'd like a free energy efficiency consultation, please email me at paulspassivehouse@gmail.com.